Daenerys. The horse gate of vast Dothrak was made of two gigantic bronze stallions, rearing, their hooves meeting 100 feet above the roadway to form a pointed arch. Dany could not have said why the city needed a gate when it had no walls, and no buildings that she could see. Yet there it stood, immense and beautiful, the great horses framing the distant purple mountain beyond. The bronze stallions threw long shadows across the waving grasses as Khal Drogo led the Khalasar under their hooves and down the Godsway, his blood riders beside him. Dany followed on her silver, escorted by Ser Jorah Mormont and her brother Viserys, mounted once more. After the day in the grass when she'd left him to walk back to the Khalasar, the Dothraki had laughed and called him Khal Rhai Mar, the Sorefoot King. Khal Drogo had offered him a place in a cart the next day, and Viserys had accepted. In his stubborn ignorance he had not even known he was being mocked. The carts were for eunuchs, cripples, women giving birth, the very young, and the very old. That won him yet another name, Khal Rhaggat, the Cart King. Her brother had thought it was the Khal's way of apologizing for the wrong Dany had done him. She had begged Ser Jorah not to tell him the truth, lest he be shamed. The knight had replied that the king could well do with a bit of shame, yet he had done as she bid. It had taken much pleading and all the pillow tricks Doreah had taught her before Dany had been able to make Drogo relent and allow Viserys to rejoin them at the head of the column. "Where is the city?" she asked as they passed beneath the bronze arch. There were no buildings to be seen, no people, only the grass and the road, lined with ancient monuments from all the lands the Dothraki had sacked over the centuries. "Ahead," Ser Jorah answered, "under the mountain." Beyond the horse gate, plundered gods and stolen heroes loomed to either side of them. The forgotten deities of dead cities brandished their broken thunderbolts at the sky as Dany rode her silver past their feet. Stone kings looked down on her from their thrones, their faces chipped and stained, even their names lost in the midst of time. Lithe young maidens danced on marble plinths, draped only in flowers, or poured air from shattered jars. Monsters stood at the grass beside the road, black iron dragons with jewels for eyes, roaring griffins, manticores with their barbed tails poisoned to strike, and other beasts she could not name. Some of the statues were so lovely they took her breath away, others so misshapen and terrible that Dany could scarcely bear to look at them. Those, Ser Jorah said, had likely come from the Shadowlands beyond Ashai. "So many," she said as her silver stepped slowly onward, "and from so many lands." Viserys was less impressed. "The trash of dead cities," he sneered. He was careful to speak in the common tongue, which few Dothraki could understand, yet even so Dany found herself glancing back at the men of her cars to make certain he'd not been overheard. He went on blithely. "All these savages know how to do is steal the things other men have built, and kill." He laughed. "They do know how to kill. Otherwise I'd have no use for them at all." "They are my people now," Dany said. "You should not call them savages, brother." "The dragon speaks as he likes," Viserys said, in the common tongue. He glanced over his shoulder at Argo and Ricaro, riding behind them, and favoured them with a mocking smile. "See, the savages lack the wit to understand the speech of civilized men." A moss-eaten stone monolith loomed over the road, 50 feet tall. Viserys gazed at it with bored eyes. "How long must we linger amongst these ruins before Drogo gives me my army? I grow tired of waiting." "The princess must be presented to Dosh Khaleen." "The crones, yes," her brother interrupted. "And there's to be some mummer's show of a prophecy for the whelp in her belly. You told me. What's it to me? I'm tired of eating horse meat, and I'm sick of the stink of these savages." He sniffed at the wide floppy sleeve of his tunic, where it was his custom to keep a sachet. It could not have helped much. The tunic was filthy. All the silk and heavy wools that Viserys had worn out of Pentos were stained by hard travel and rotted from sweat. Ser Jorah Mormont said, "The western market will have food more to your taste, your grace. The traders from the free cities come here to sell their wares. The Khal will honor his promise in his own time." "He'd better," Viserys said grimly. "I was promised a crown, and I mean to have it. The dragon is not mocked." Spying an obscene likeness of a woman with 6 breasts and a ferret's head, He rode off to inspect it more closely. Dany was relieved, yet no less anxious. "I pray my sun and stars will not keep him waiting too long," she said to Ser Jorah when her brother was out of earshot. The knight looked after Viserys doubtfully. "Your brother should have bided his time in Pentos. There's no place for him in a Khalasar. Illyrio tried to warn him." "He will go as soon as he has his 10,000. My lord husband promised a golden crown." Ser Jorah grunted. "Yes, Khaleesi, but the Dothraki look on these things differently than we do in the West. I've told him as much as Illyrio told him, but your brother does not listen. The Horse Lords are not traders. Viserys thinks he sold you, and now he wants his price. Yet Khal Drogo would say he had you as a gift. He will give us Viserys a gift in return. Yes, in his own time. You do not demand a gift, not of a Khal. You do not demand anything of a Khal." "It's not right to make him wait." Dany did not know why she was defending her brother, yet she was. "Viserys says he could sweep the 7 kingdoms with 10,000 Dothraki screamers." Ser Jorah snorted. "Viserys could not sweep a stable with 10,000 brooms." Dany could not pretend to surprise at the disdain in his tone. What if it were not Viserys?" she asked. "If it was someone else who led them? Someone stronger? Could the Dothraki truly conquer the 7 kingdoms? Ser Jorah's face grew doubtful as their horses trod together down the Godsway. "When I first went into exile, I looked at the Dothraki and saw half-naked barbarians as wild as their horses. If you had to ask me then, Princess, I would have told you that 1,000 good knights would have no trouble putting to flight 100 times as many Dothraki." "But if I asked you now?" "Now," the knight said, "I'm less certain. They are better riders than any knight, utterly fearless, and their bows outrange ours. In the 7 kingdoms, most archers fight on foot from behind a shield wall or a barricade of sharpened stakes. The Dothraki fire from horseback, charging or retreating, it makes no matter. They are full as deadly. And there are so many of them, my lady. Your lord husband alone counts 40,000 mounted warriors in his Khalasar." "Is that truly so many?" "Your brother Rhaegar brought as many men to the Trident," Ser Jorah admitted. "But of that number, no more than 1/10 were knights. The rest were archers, free riders, and foot soldiers armed with spears and pikes. When Rhaegar fell, many threw down their weapons and fled the field. How long do you imagine such a rabble would stand against the charge of 40,000 screaming and howling for blood? How well would boiled leather jerkins and mailed shirts protect them from the arrows that fall like rain?" "Not long," she said. "Not well." He nodded. "Mind you, Princess, if the lords of the 7 kingdoms have the wit the gods gave a goose, it will never come to that. The riders have no taste for siegecraft. I doubt they would take even the weakest castle in the 7 kingdoms. But if Robert Baratheon were fool enough to give them battle—" "Is he?" Dany asked. "A fool, I mean." Ser Jorah considered that for a moment. "Robert should have been born Dothraki," he said at last. "Your Khal would tell you that only a crow hides behind stone walls instead of facing his enemy with a blade in his hand. The usurper would agree. He is a strong man, brave, and rash enough to meet a Dothraki horde in the open field. But the men around him, well, their pipers play a different tune. His brother Stannis, Lord Tywin Lannister, Eddard Stark." He spat. "You hate this Lord Stark," Dany said. "He took from me all I loved for the sake of a few lice-ridden poachers and his precious honor," Ser Jorah said bitterly. From his tone she could tell the loss still pained him. He changed the subject quickly. "There," he announced, pointing. "Vast Dothrak, the city of the Horse Lords." Khal Drogo and his blood riders led them through the greatest bazaar of the Western Market, down the broad ways and beyond. Dany followed close on her silver, staring at the strangeness about her. Vast Dothrak was at once the largest city and the smallest that she'd ever seen. She thought it must be 10 times as large as Pentos, a vastness without walls or limits, its broad, windswept streets paved in grass and mud and carpeted with wildflowers. In the free cities of the West, towers and manses and hovels and bridges and shops and halls were all crowded in on one another, but vast Dothrak sprawled langoriously, baking in the warm sun, ancient, arrogant, and empty. Even the buildings were so queer to her eyes. She saw carved stone pavilions, manses of woven grass as large as castles, rickety wooden towers, stepped pyramids faced with marble, long halls open to the sky. In place of walls, some palaces were surrounded by thorny hedges. "None of them are alike," she said. "Your brother has part of the truth," Ser Jorah admitted. "The Dothraki do not build. 1,000 years ago, to make a house, they would dig a hole in the earth and cover it with a woven grass roof. The buildings you see here were made by slaves brought here from lands they've plundered, and they built each after the fashion of their own peoples." Most of the halls, even the largest, seemed deserted. "Where are the people who live here?" Dany asked. The bazaar had been so full of running children and men shouting, but everywhere else she'd only seen a few eunuchs going about their business. "Only the crows of the Dosh Khaleen dwell permanently in the sacred city, them and their slaves and servants," Ser Jorah replied. "Yet vast Dothrak is large enough to house every man in every Khalasar, should all the Khals return to the mother at once. The crones have prophesied that one day that will come to pass, and so vast Dothrak must be ready to embrace all its children." Khal Drogo finally called a halt near the eastern market, where the caravans from Yi Ti and Ashai and the Shadowlands came to trade, with the Mother of Mountains looming overhead. Dany smiled as she recalled Magister Illyrio's slave girl and her talk of a palace with 200 rooms and doors of solid silver. The palace was a cavernous wooden feasting hall, its rough-hewn timber walls rising 40 feet, its roof-hewn silk, a vast billowing tent that could be raised to keep out the rare rains, or lowered to admit the endless sky. Around the hall were broad grassy horse-yards fenced with high hedges, fire pits, and hundreds of round earthen houses that bulged from the ground like miniature hills, covered with grass. A small army of slaves had gone ahead to prepare for Khal Drogo's arrival. As each rider swung down from his saddle, he unsheathed his arakh and handed it to a waiting slave, and any other weapons he carried as well. Even Khal Drogo himself was not exempt. Ser Jorah had explained that it was forbidden to carry a blade in vast Dothrak, or to shed a free man's blood. Even warring Khalasars put aside their feuds and shared meat and mead together when they were in sight of the Mother of Mountains. In this place, the crones of the Dosh Khaleen had been decreed all Dothraki were one blood, one Khalasar, one herd. Kaholo came to Dany as Irri and Jiqui were helping her down off her silver. He was the oldest of Drogo's 3 blood riders, a squat bald man with a crooked nose and a mouthful of broken teeth, shattered by a mace 20 years before when he saved the young Kalaka from sellswords who hoped to sell him to his father's enemies. His life had been bound to Drogo's the day her lord husband was born. Every Khal had his blood riders. At first Dany had thought of them as a kind of Dothraki king's guard, sworn to protect their lord, but it went further than that. Jiqui had taught her that a blood rider was more than a guard. They were the Khal's brothers, his shadows, his fiercest friends. "Blood of my blood," Drogo called them, and so it was. They shared a single life. The ancient traditions of the Horse Lords demanded that when the Khal died, his blood riders died with him, to ride at his side in the Nightlands. If the Khal died at the hands of some enemy, they lived only long enough to avenge him, and then followed him joyfully into the grave. In some Khalasars, Jiqui said, the blood riders shared the Khal's wine, his tent, and even his wives, though never his horses. A man's mount was his own. Daenerys was glad that Khal Drogo did not hold to those ancient ways. She should not have liked being shared. And while old Kaholo treated her kindly enough, the others frightened her. Hago, huge and silent, often glowered as if he'd forgotten who she was, and Kotho had cruel eyes and quick hands that liked to hurt. He left bruises on Doria's soft white skin whenever he touched her, and sometimes made Irri sob in the night. Even his horses seemed to fear him. Yet they were bound to Drogo for life and death, so Daenerys had no choice but to accept them. And sometimes she found herself wishing her father had been protected by such men. In the songs, the White Knights of the Kingsguard were ever noble, valiant, and true, and yet King Aerys had been murdered by one of them, the handsome boy they now called the Kingslayer, and a second, Sir Barristan the Bold, had gone over to the usurper. She wondered if all the men were as false in the 7 kingdoms. When her son sat the Iron Throne, she would see that he had blood riders of his own to protect him against treachery in his king's guard. "Khaleesi," Kaholo called to her in Dothraki. "Drogo, who is blood of my blood, commands me to tell you that he must ascend to the Mother of Mountains tonight to sacrifice to the gods for his safe return." Only men were allowed to set foot on the Mother, Dany knew. Takal's blood riders would go with him and return at dawn. "Tell my son in stars that I dream of him and wait anxious for his return," she replied, thankful. Dany tired more easily as the child grew within her. In truth, a night of rest would be most welcome. Her pregnancy only seemed to have inflamed Drogo's desire for her, and of late his embraces left her exhausted. Doria led her to the hollow hill that had been prepared for her in her car. It was cool and dim within, like a tent made of earth. "Jiqui, a bath, please," she commanded, to wash the dust of travel from her skin and soak her weary bones. It was pleasant to know that they would linger here for a while, that she would not need to climb back on her silver on the morrow. The water was scalding hot, as she liked it. "I will give my brother his gifts tonight," she decided as Jiqui was washing her hair. "He should look a king in the sacred city. Doria, run and find him and invite him to sup with me." Viserys was nicer to the Lysene girl than to her Dothraki handmaids, perhaps because Magister Illyrio had let him bed her back in Pentos. "Eerie, go to the bazaar and buy fruit and meat, anything but horse flesh." "Horse is best," Eerie said. "Horse makes a man strong." "Viserys hates horse meat." "As you say, Khaleesi." She brought back a haunch of goat and a basket of fruit and vegetables. Jiqui roasted the meat with sweetgrass and fire pods, basting it with honey as it cooked, and there were melons and pomegranates and plums and some queer eastern fruit Dany did not know. While her handmaids prepared the meal, Dany laid out the clothing she'd had made to her brother's measure, a tunic and leggings of crisp white linen, leather sandals that laced up to the knee, a bronze medallion belt, a leather vest painted with fire-breathing dragons. The Dothraki would respect him more if he looked less a beggar, she hoped, and perhaps he would forgive her for shaming him that day in the grass. He was still her king, after all, and her brother. They were both blood of the dragon. She was arranging the last of his gifts, a sand-silk cloak, green as grass, and a pale grey border that would bring out the silver in his hair, when Viserys arrived, dragging Doria by the arm. Her eye was red where he'd hit her. "How dare you send this whore to me to give commands?" he said. He shoved the handmaid roughly to the carpet. The anger took Dany utterly by surprise. "I only wanted— Doria, what did you say?" "Khaleesi pardons, forgive me. I went to him as you bid and told him you commanded him to join you for supper." "No one commands the dragon," Viserys snarled. "I am your king. I should have sent you back her head." The Lysene girl quailed, but Dany calmed her with a touch. "Don't be afraid. He won't hurt you." "Sweet brother, please, forgive her. The girl misspoke herself. I told her to ask you to sup with me if it pleases your grace." She took him by the hand and drew him across the room. "Look, these are for you." Viserys frowned suspiciously. "What is all this?" "New raiment. I had it made for you." Dany smiled shyly. He looked at her and sneered. "Dothraki rags. Do you presume to dress me now?" "Please. You'd be cooler and more comfortable, and I thought maybe if you dressed like them, the Dothraki—" Dany didn't know how to say it without waking his dragon. "Next you'll want to braid my hair?" "I'd never—" Why was he always so cruel? She'd only wanted to help. "You have no right to a braid. You've won no victories yet." It was the wrong thing to say. Fury shone from his lilac eyes, yet he dared not strike her, not with her handmaids watching and the warriors of her caste outside. Viserys picked up the cloak and sniffed at it. "This stinks of manure. Perhaps I'll use it as a horse blanket." "I had Doria sew it especially for you," she told him, wounded. "These are garments fit for a carl." "I am the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, not some grass-stained savage with bells in his hair." Viserys spat back at her. He grabbed her arm. "You forget yourself, slut. Do you think that big belly will protect you if you wake the dragon?" His fingers dug into her arm painfully, and for an instant Dany felt like a child again, quailing in the face of his rage. She reached out with her other hand and grabbed the first thing she touched, the belt she'd hoped to give him, a heavy chain of ornate bronze medallions. She swung it with all her strength. It caught him full in the face. Viserys let go of her. Blood ran down his cheek where the edge of one of the medallions had sliced it open. "You are the one who forgets himself," Dany said to him. "Did you learn anything that day in the grass? Leave me now before I summon my cars to drag you out. And pray that Khal Drogo does not hear of this, or he will cut open your belly and feed you your own entrails." Viserys scrambled back to his feet. "When I come back to my kingdom, you will rue this day, slut." He walked off, holding his torn face, leaving her gifts behind him. Drops of his blood had spattered the beautiful sand-silk cloak. Dany clutched the soft cloth to her cheek and sat cross-legged in her sleeping mats. "Your supper is ready, Khaleesi," Jiqui announced. "I'm not hungry," Dany said sadly. She was suddenly very tired. "Share the food amongst yourselves, and send some to Ser Jorah if you would." After a moment she added, "Please bring me one of the dragon's eggs." Irri fetched the egg with the deep green shell, bronze flecks shining amidst its scales as she turned it in her small hands. Dany curled up on her side, pulled the sand-silk cloak across her, and cradling the egg in the hollow between her swollen belly and her small tender breasts. She liked to hold them. They were so beautiful, and sometimes just being close to them made her feel stronger, braver, as if somehow she were drawing strength from the stone dragons locked inside. She was lying there, holding the egg, when she felt the child move within her, as if he were reaching out, brother to brother, blood to blood. "You are the dragon," Dany whispered to him. "The true dragon. I know it. I know it." And she smiled and went to sleep, dreaming of home.
Yeah, let's just start out by saying what a dick Viserys is.
Yeah, wow. We thought he was rude before.
Dany goes out of her way, makes him some new dress clothes so he'll fit in better.
Makes him
Doing
some
all she
really
can.
nice ones.
And he just will not accept it.
And he just takes it in literally the worst possible way you could take something.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about being ungrateful when someone gives you
Not
something.
a smart plan. But there's been a miscommunication because Khal Drogo thinks that he gave him a gift. And he will repay that gift in time when he feels the time is right.
Talk about cultural miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm pretty sure Magister Illyrio
Probably explained it.
Because at the very beginning of the book, Magister Illyrio said, like, the Khal will return the favor when it's time.
Mm-hmm.
He will do it in his own due course, and Viserys is still like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me.
Which is why it's not really so much misunderstanding each other's cultures, and it's just more Viserys being a dick.
Yeah. He really does not... He really looks at the Dothraki as brute, savage, primitive people. And Dany is growing very accustomed to their way of life, and she's assimilating and she's integrating into it, and you know, she's calling Drogo her sun and stars.
Yes.
Like,
it's cute.
It's cute. She kind of loves Khal Drogo, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a nickname for him.
And I think slowly we're learning that Khal Drogo is like a sweet Dothraki.
Yeah.
Because, like, other Khals will share their wives with their blood riders and...
Or, you know, have more than one wife.
Yeah.
And the Khal is just like, no. This is my Dany. No one else's. And I only need her. Dany got the good one, I guess.
Yes, she got lucky with this one. Viserys, not so much.
No.
But
I also think
it's also Viserys just being an idiot. Because well, he probably doesn't know, actually, but he should know that Drogo actually does care about her, and he's in there, like, hitting her and doing all. You're surrounded by an army of Dothraki that see her as their queen. They don't even like you.
Yeah.
Like-
It was all those nicknames they gave him was so funny. And when Drogo's like, "Here, would you like to ride in a cart?" Yes.
Oh, thank you. My feet have been killing me.
And then they're all just laughing at him, and he has no idea.
I know.
It's. I think Martin is doing a very good job of demonstrating some of that classic Western bias and disrespect toward differing cultures, you know?
Maybe.
But in a fantasy type setting.
I think they're just showing that Viserys is a dick.
Well, yeah, but it's that kind of attitude. Well, they're savages. They're this, they're that. And, and Jorah even says, well, when I first got here, I thought so too. But I opened my mind and I learned about them, and they're actually not savages. They're really not.
I mean, they even have their, I guess, version of King's Landing. Vastothrak.
Which
where
sounds cool to me. Sounds like a pretty cool place.
Doesn't matter if you're about to kill someone outside the gates, you walk in and you're buddies again.
Yep. Everybody's got to be friends. Reminds me of the Warrior Cats books.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Every full moon, all the clans go to Four Trees for a gathering. And, no matter what squabbles you have with another clan, there is peace during the gathering. Everyone needs to be nice.
Oh, okay.
And they all share news. Different, but same.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Maybe they got that from Game of Thrones.
Maybe. I just think I love all the descriptions of all the different statues, and Jorah's like, that's probably from a Shai, because that's weird. So that's definitely from
all the monuments were built by the slaves they got.
Yeah.
And each one represents where the slaves came from. They built in their own style. That's some culture.
Yeah.
Kind of shows that maybe they're a little bit more cultured than
Viserys.
You know, they did it in a brutal way, but
right.
They've been around the world a lot more.
Right. They've literally been to plenty of different places. Obviously, they're like pillaging and raping.
Mm-hmm.
But they're accumulating all of this cultural heritage, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That being said, we're talking about all the good things and everything. We did get to see, though, that the cows will share their wives and everything.
Yeah.
But not their horses.
No horses. A man's mount is his own.
Yes. That's my horse. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
I love that Dany calls her horse her silver. Like, that's how her horse doesn't have like a name. It's just, she wrote on her silver. That's the name of her horse.
That is the name, Silver.
But it's not capitalized in the writing.
Oh.
It's not capitalized like a name would be. I also thought it was really nice that I think it demonstrates a lot about Dany's character, that she has this really nice dinner made. She goes out of her way to find something very like familiar, and she's like, no horse meat.
Yeah.
And after Viserys completely rejects the gesture and is a total dick about the whole thing, she has all this food and she's like, you know what? Send some to Ser Jorah, and you guys you guys eat it. Her handmaidens or whatever. You guys can have it. Just because she had them go out of their way to prepare it, and the one Doria, her Tyroshi? Lysine. She's from Lee's that Viserys punched in the face.
Yeah.
She's kind of feeling like, well, this went really badly, and I made you do all this work to prepare all this food, and you got punched in the face, so, here, you can have it. I can kind of make up for it a little bit, maybe.
Here, have this food. You're gonna need all the energy you can get to fix that broken
face.
Yeah.
Jorah, and we got some insight about how Jorah feels about Viserys
And Ned Stark.
and Ned Stark. Not a fan.
And the Starks.
The Starks. We're not fans of the Starks.
So
On Bear Island, apparently.
being honorable all the time will make you some enemies, apparently. Because right now, Ned's got a lot of them.
Yeah, Ned's making enemies left and right. I mean, do you think Jaime intended to injure Ned so severely? Did we discuss
Yes, we did.
Okay.
No, because he told them to not harm him.
Right. Okay.
And
thank you.
Yeah.
And
Ned's injury was like,
it was accidental because he fell off his horse. Well, his horse fell on him.
Yeah.
So the Mormont gentleman does not like Ned.
Yes.
Obviously. I would assume guilty by association that Dany wouldn't really like him. Because he's best friends with the usurper.
Yeah.
The Lannisters are really obviously not feeling Ned.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks,
Catelyn.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't like him before, but now they really don't like him.
Right, before it was just like, you're...
I don't want to associate with you. Now it's, we're going to associate. My fist in your face.
Yeah. Catelyn.
Ruins everything.
Catelyn the Catalyst.
Mm-hmm. And then we got to find out who the real dragon is.
Yeah.
The baby.
The baby is the dragon.
The belly baby.
The belly baby. I think it's interesting that Dany likes to like hold the eggs, and they help her feel safe and comfortable, and she's just like, the stone dragons give her comfort.
Yep.
The great stone dragon.
Right? Where's that crossover?
That's all I could
Dany
think.
goes to a shy and runs into Mulan and Mushu.
It's all I could think when I read that line. The great stone dragon. I'm the great. Like, maybe that dragon in the egg is just whispering. That's right, Dany.
Little Mushu in there. She wasn't talking to the dragon in the egg. She was talking to her baby. Baby.
I know, but she said something about how when she held the eggs, the stone dragons inside gave her strength, seemed to give her strength. That was what did it for me.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always make those weird associations in my brain when I read. Every time we visit Dany, she has some kind of encounter with Viserys where we learn yet again that he's a douche.
He's a dick.
He always talks about waking the dragon, and I am the blood of the dragon.
In positive news, he didn't give her a purple nurple this time. Progress.
Yeah, that Khal Drogo might notice that one.
Yeah.
He probably would pick up on that one.
Well, he's done it since she was with him, so
yeah,
he obviously doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that he doesn't care, really, that he's in Westerthrak.
No. The only statue he looked at was the one that had 6 titties.
Yeah. I mean, he is what, 15 or something?
Well, wait, let's see.
He's in those hormonal teenage years.
Dany is 14.
Yeah.
Right? So Viserys has got to be...
He's like 15 or 16.
16, yeah, 15.
So yeah, he's in those hormonal teen years.
But Dany's the one getting some.
Mm-hmm.
On
Maybe
the
that's
regular.
it. Maybe he's just angry about that.
Dany's getting some and he's not.
Yeah.
And no one probably wants to give him any because he's riding in the cart all the time. he's not riding his own horse. All the women are like,
I may be a slave doomed to this for the rest of my life, but I have standards.
I don't ride in a cart.
I at least walk.
And Dany is like super open-minded. She's really interested. She's like in this new place and she's like, wow, this is really cool. Look at this place. There's all this culture and all this food and the flowers and all the grass.
And Viserys is just like, boobies.
Boobies. I want to go home! Boobies.
Well, maybe 5 more reasons.
I also get the inkling.
I don't know. I think I think it's more to show that Viserys is just a crappy leader.
And
he has no patience. He has no tact. You know, if you have, why wouldn't you befriend them so that they're going to fight on your side?
that they would want to fight for.
Yeah.
You.
See, he's like, it's difficult because Dany seems to understand a lot of this. Viserys doesn't, and they more or less were raised in the same home. She was a little bit younger, but still, they got pulled away from their family so young. I'm guessing Illyrio or whoever he had teaching them
Yeah.
taught them both. Yet she seems to understand a lot more, and he's just like...
She just seems to have a more natural awareness about her. Maybe it's because she was younger. She wasn't so traumatized by what happened. Viserys was older. Maybe he remembers the trauma of being taken away and his family being slaughtered.
I mean,
You know?
maybe, but it seems like there's been this plan for them to do this for a while. Wouldn't Maester Illyrio have, like...
Magister
Illyrio have... Well, I mean, back then, like, most kings and queens and princes and everything went through years of schooling and training to be
Kings
the king.
and queens. Yeah.
How you act around this culture, how you
No,
act around this person.
I agree. You see it, Magister Illyrio.
I
is
feel
trying
like
to...
Magister Illyrio...
tried.
No, I don't think he did.
Oh, didn't try.
I think it's sabotage. It's like,
I mean, you
in
just...
Kung Pao,
Yeah.
this is what we have purposely trained him wrong as a joke.
I mean, but you do see Magister Illyrio trying to teach Viserys at the beginning of the book. This is the Dothraki custom. This is how you do this. This is what this means. This is how you, if you want to win your kingdom back, you got to do X, Y, and Z. And Viserys is just like, yeah, no, I'm not listening to this. I'm the blood of the dragon. It's all I need. You're the blood of the dragon. But the difference between you and Aegon the Conqueror is Aegon had dragons.
And he had a big dragon, too.
He had a big dragon. The biggest dragon Westeros has ever seen.
Exactly.
Just saying. That's a difference. There's a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think this chapter demonstrates Dany is overcoming the power that Viserys holds on her. She no longer just kind of lets him walk all over her. She's starting to get angry and harness the power as the Khaleesi and say, if the Khal hears about this, you're gonna get in trouble. You know, she's like starting to realize that she has her own power and she can stand up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also starting to ask Jorah like very interesting questions that I don't think Viserys would have ever asked. She goes, how would the Dothraki do if they went to Westeros? How would that work? And she's asking questions about how men in Westeros fight and what do their armies look like, and she seems to kind of have the more natural inclination to, these are the kinds of things a ruler or a potential ruler should be asking, right?
Yeah.
And Jorah's sitting there, I think, just absorbing all the information, trying to give her good information.
Well, how good if he's plotting against her?
Right, because we also have that information too from the last time. It was the last time Varys.
We never learned who spoke.
I thought he was the one in the council that said it.
Oh, we did?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Okay. I don't know if he's the one that got the information. I'm pretty sure he's just the one that told Robert, like, Lord Mormont reports that she's pregnant or whatever.
Okay.
Maybe it's Littlefinger. He seems to have a lot of connections. Who the hell knows who, whatever. But we do have that in the back of our mind.
Yes. Mormont is plotting against Dany.
So he's giving her this information and acting like her best friend, but in the back of our minds we're also like, yeah, but he's also telling Robert stuff.
So could the Dothraki really take on a Westeros army? Or is he just like, yeah, the Dothraki will do fine, you're good?
What he says seems like it should be logical, right?
Metal armor isn't that tough. He'll be fine.
Maybe Jaime Lannister and his whole gold getup and everything, versus, like, the peasants with, like, nothing.
It specifically says that it's gilded gold. Never mind. I was going to say, gold is very soft.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he would wear solid gold armor. That'd be pretty stupid.
It'd also be super heavy.
Yeah. Super heavy, super soft.
The man's back would be done by the time he's 25.
Yes.
And I think he's 28 now.
Is he?
I can't remember. I think we did Tyrion's age. We figured that out or something. Either way, he's probably there.
Well, how long ago was Robert's rebellion?
13 years.
13 years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did that math. Yeah, so he's like 30. Because he was 17 then.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he was like a teenager when he was...
We did that math in a previous episode. I just couldn't remember.
Anyway, yeah.
Because we were talking about how old Tyrion was.
So Jaime and Cersei are 30.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, it's very interesting to see this side of Jorah and have that in the back of your mind. Like, bro, you're like not being honorable and truthful. And just saying, okay, he can hate the Starks all he wants and Ned's honor, but he's not being honorable right now, I'm just saying, he sold people as slaves, that's why he got kicked out, and now he's not being loyal to the person he should be loyal to. I'm just saying.
Hey,
I know he wants
you gotta make ends meet sometimes.
I know he wants to go home, but maybe there are better ways to go home. I don't know. It's kind of like he's using shady means to achieve an end, just like last time he was using shady means to achieve an end. Like,
but that's how things are done.
I know, but maybe you should have learned the lesson that Ned was trying to teach you about not doing those things. I don't know.
You just learn to be sneakier next time.
I guess so, yeah. I guess so. That's the problem with being honorable, I guess, in Westeros. Mm-hmm. Ned, figure it out, bud. Oh. Was there anything else about that? I think that was pretty much
Yeah, that's pretty much
everything.
it.
I did think it's funny that the one handmaid was like, she's like, get something other than horse meat. No, horse meat is best. Make men strong. Okay.
Viserys doesn't like it, and I think that said a lot.
Yep,
Horse
he
meat
hates it.
makes men strong. Viserys doesn't like it. That makes sense.
Oh my god.
And, you know, she was probably thinking it too. Like, not surprised.
How much?
I've noticed.
I just want to sit in on a conversation with, like, the Blood Riders, or just a couple of random Dothraki, and what they have to say about Viserys. I just want to hear the shit that they talk about.
Oh my god. Be like a roast.
That's what I mean. I just want to listen in on what they have to say about him. It's probably terrible.
Like that one
And-
subreddit, R roast me.
Yeah.
Put Viserys on there.
Yeah.
Dothraki just responding. This cart rider.
Cart rider. Poor Dany. She really tried.
She did.
She really tried, and I think in this moment she kind of is starting to realize, like, it literally doesn't matter what I do. He's gonna be a dick.
Yep.
But he's still her brother, so she's still trying because he's her brother, and he's literally the only family she's had this whole time. But now she's got a Bibi and Drogo, so now she's got a new family. So how is that?
And who's she gonna put first? Viserys or her baby?
Her Bibi. Also, Viserys kind of like low-key threatened the Bibi.
Where I don't remember.
He kind of like said something like, I don't care what happens with that whelp in your belly, I'll do whatever it takes, blah blah blah. I don't think it was like an overt like threat, like I'm gonna kill your baby, but it was very much like, I don't give a crap about your baby.
Well, yeah.
I'm not so sure that Khal Drogo would be happy to hear that.
No.
Might piss him off a little bit. Like,
I know, he's lucky Khal Drogo went to the mountain.
Yeah.
The mother of mountains.
yeah.
Couldn't help but think of the Clegans. Clegane.
Oh,
Mountain.
Mother Mountain. Mama Mountain. What happened to her?
Right? She died
She had
under
an-
mysterious circumstances.
Wasn't that how their dad died? He had a hunting accident.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Terribly unfortunate.
That's awful.
So who do we get to visit next?
Who do we get to visit next? Let's see. Do you want to take a guess?
Who haven't we seen in a while? Tyrion.
Nope.
Who?
Bran. We get to visit Bran. But maybe by visiting Bran, maybe we'll also get to see Robb and Rickon. Maybe it'll be get a Winterfell as a whole update, maybe, you know.
Maybe he's getting used to the whole no leg thing.
Yeah. Maybe he's got his
Saddle.
yeah, maybe
Everything.
maybe he's gonna go for a horseback ride or something. Maybe it'll be a fun chapter instead of a woe is me chapter, and then a strange dream.
Or maybe it will be all fun. Yay, Tyrion gave me a saddle and all this, and then, oh hey, your mom is at the Eyrie, she has a captive. Oh, and the Lannisters are coming to try to kill us.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Wonder what Tywin thinks about all of this.
He's not happy. I'm pretty sure, Tyrion, I know, mentions it once, that he doesn't think he'll come for me, but there's a slight on Lannister honor.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He will come.
So how do you think their father's gonna feel now that, you know, Jaime threatened Lord Stark?
I think Jaime went and threatened Lord Stark kind of on his command.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe he wasn't being rash and emotional.
Mm.
Maybe Tywin was like...
Tywin was probably
scare
like,
him a little bit.
go talk to the Stark, find out what's going on.
But maybe Lord Tywin will not be happy that his leg broke in the process.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't be happy, but again, that Jaime was out of there at that time.
That's true. He left.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically not on Jaime. Well, guilty by default, maybe, because he wasn't there to make sure none of that happened to the Stark.
Well, yeah.
Either way.
Either way. You can like, comment, and subscribe and find out what happens with Bran next time up at Winterfell.